Hello, H. Michael Sweeney here for the Free Will Society, and this video is primarily aimed at a lot of stalking victims who have been inquiring about the idea of joining me here in Westport, Washington, to escape their targeting and lie in wait, so to speak, until we could caravan to a Free Will Society intentional community. And in the map before you, you see various map pins representing many of the possible places that I've located in my weekly searches that are still available at very reasonable prices with very reasonable facilities, value-wise, featuring all the needed privacy and security and many other features that would be very useful to someone trying to, I don't know, let's say emotionally and physically recover from decades perhaps of stalking issues. You'll notice that some of the pins are blue. They're actually supposed to be buses, but I think of them as motorhomes because those are actually RV parks that are available at reasonable prices. And so we're looking at various kinds of facilities that can be used. Now, Westport itself is located in Washington State, just east of the central area comprising Seattle to the north and Tacoma and Olympia to the south. That's the high residential corridor, so to speak, of Washington State. And it's approximately a 3-hour ride from Portland, roughly a 3 to 4 hour ride to Seattle from Portland, roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours from Seattle to Westport. And most people would who are going to come here would probably want to plan on either coming by car or by rail or plane. If you come by rail or plane, you'll be landing at Tacoma International Airport, and it's called SeaTac, and that's about here. And then you could either rent a car or potentially find an Uber ride. It should be a very long Uber ride, very expensive, but taking this road would get you here. And where is here? This is Westport. It's part of a long spit of land, ocean shore that is built up over many hundreds of years. And the nearest community of any size is Aberdeen, some 30 minutes away. And that's where you find very good shopping and services like medical services and professional services that might not be present in Westport. There's some medical capability in Westport, obviously, but some of the better shopping can be done in Aberdeen, though Westport is economically depressed, and as a result it's very inexpensive to live here. I'm living essentially on $600 a month myself in a motorhome. And what we're going to do in this video is give you a bit of a tour of Westport to try to give you a feel for what it's like to live here. And I'm going to show you various things. We're going to build that around a bicycle ride. Bicycle is very convenient and useful here, both for function, practical function, as well as entertainment and relaxation, enjoyment. So we're going to take a bicycle ride starting at this point, and it's roughly a 2-mile ride to the end. We're really going to stop the main presentation here at the top, and then the rest of the video will consist of a couple of short sections explaining some very important things regarding a stalking victim's interest in living here, and then the rest of the video will play out for the remainder of the trip. And you need not really watch that unless you're just curious. The reason that I am doing it this way is because I traveled that portion at high speed and it was a windy day. You can barely hear what I'm saying, and mostly I'm just pointing out things that we drive by, like the police station and city hall, bank, and so forth. So those are kind of unimportant, and if you want to watch it, you may, but that'll save you a good 15 minutes if you do not choose to watch it. And so let us begin. And this is where we're going to start our bicycle ride, and it's at the old lighthouse. This lighthouse was built in the 1800s and is no longer used because the area that you see there, all the way 2 to 3 blocks down the road there, used to be the beach area that has gotten larger and larger over the many decades and has become usable land and has grown up vegetation on the sand dunes, resulting in uselessness for that lighthouse. There is a new lighthouse now placed in an actually more useful location as far as ship safety is concerned. Now, we're going to next take a look at that area here, because that is a park with some very nice paths for walking or bike riding. And I'm not going to take the bicycle down there, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a video just to let you see how nice it is. And I met some folks there on the path today, and as many a times as I've been down there on my bike, perhaps a dozen so far, spending hours and hours, I've never until today seen anyone else taking advantage of this park. It's not equipped like with picnic benches or anything, but it's a wonderful place to find serenity and gather your thoughts. Now, here we are at the lighthouse, and just a few feet away we come to a path. It goes off into the wilds of what used to be sand dunes. Basically overgrown after many decades of soil building. This used to be a beach. The lighthouse is no longer in use as a result. These paths go on for, well, probably a total of at least 2 or 3 miles in various directions, with little cubby holes here and there. 2 paths lead back to the White House. One leads to a street. Another leads to the path we're going to go on the bicycle shortly. Now, and we resume here to show you that there is actually a wide variety of terrain and wildlife. In another area, very much like this, I've encountered black bear, deer, coyote, and other animals. Lots of bald eagles around here. This path also goes to the beach, and that takes us back to where we came from, but just a few feet away is another path going back to the lighthouse. And I think that's enough of the park. So here we are, about 1 block from the beach, 6 blocks from town. Nice big apartment complex on the outside there. To my right you see woods. It's actually old sand dunes have been covered up with growth, small trees, bushes, lots of paths through there. Nice cool spots during the summer. Mosquitoes get you in the spring, but they die off soon enough. Light State Park. I should have shown you the lighthouse because I started recording just after it. This little path runs, I don't know, maybe a mile or so along parallel to the beach. And along the way you see these little placards that tell you various things about the geology, the wildlife, plant life, history, park benches, and lookout posts provided by citizens, funded with donations. Hello, ma'am. There's one. I'm actually on one of those platforms, and we'll just do a little pan around here. And off in the distance, you might be able to see the community that's on the other side of the bay. And there is a darker gray line at the lower edge of the horizon there. That is a man-made bar, a breaker, keep the waves, which you can see there's quite a few of, from impacting shipping entering the harbor, especially if they're smaller boats like charter fishing vessels, that sort of a thing. There are lots of paths down to the beach. The beach itself is very wide. I'd say it ranges between 30 yards and 150 yards. The beach itself is very long, easy access at any point by law. There are sections semi-uninhabited, such that it would be possible to strip down and not bother anybody if you were of mine. Though I do believe it is illegal. In Oregon, on the other hand, it's not. Hello, ladies. I'm using a very unofficial camera mount here, so it may be a little shaky at times. And it can cause me some physical discomfort, so if I scream, you know that's why. One of my favorite things to do, and this bike, which has fat tires, I can go out on the beach, but I can also go out into the wildlife reserve, which is at the other end of town. And there are roads overgrown with vegetation that I can get the bike onto. And then I cut away the vegetation so that it opens them up for use. So far I've cleared over a mile of it, and it's roughly a 3-mile road. It just basically loops back around in a circle. People go out there and shoot, hunt, just go for hikes. You may at some point hear a horn, which sounds to warn boaters that the bar is there. It blows 24 hours a day. Nice view of the
ocean there, and you may be able to see the bar, which is the gray section between the blue sky and the blue sea. This was supposed to be a very dull, overcast day on the edge of rain, but it cleared up. Most days seem to be like that. The forecasts are always a little bit worse than the actual weather turns out to be. The hottest it's gotten was on the first day of September. It finally hit 80 degrees. And winter, it got below freezing just barely, approximately 3 days. We had less than a half inch of snowfall. It's very pleasant here. People are friendly. There's lots to see and do if you want to get out and be active. Pardon me. I'm not used to fresh air. I highly recommend the e-bike. This is Rad Power. Happens to be the Rad Mini, which collapses. It folds up to the size of a cigarette carton. Not really, but small enough you can throw it in the trunk of your car. Most cars. But I bought it because of the fat tires. They have a newer model now called the Rad Runner, which would be more logical. It's a step-through bike, so both ladies and guys with limited physical abilities like myself can more easily get on it. And the step-through part can be filled with a kind of a cargo compartment. Makes it practical for going to the grocery store, that sort of thing. I've put a basket on the back of mine so I can do that, but it makes it hard to get my leg over. That particular post or bench with the flowers was in memorial of somebody who passed. Lots of berry bushes in this part of the country. They have to be trimmed back constantly. This is a very popular place for people to come out in their skin suits, scuba suits, pardon me, and go out into the ocean. Passing on your left. And I would say at least a third of these cars here are here for that purpose. Now, to the left, just on the other side of that little dune, is the inlet to the bay, which extends all the way to Aberdeen, some 30 miles distance.
Okay, just from the parking lot that we just showed you, coming up this little path, we come to the entrance to the bay, closer to the town of Westport. You see the flag in the distance. There's a vessel outbound. Actually, it looks like it might be anchored, and it's riding high in the water. It probably was bringing in Canadian lumber.
Quite a large bay. It wraps around the west side of Westport, making it a very long spit out into the mouth of the bay. This path continues along all the way into the dock area and what is a bit of a tourist trap area at the very north end of Westport. And that is kind of a nice little ride. And it's a good eating in the restaurants in that area if you happen to like fresh fish or seafood in general. Prices are decent, considering that It's as fresh as it is. You can also buy uncooked seafood any way you want. You can get it canned, you can get it put in a container so that you can cook it as soon as you get home, and you can get it by the case if you want. Anything from oysters to, which is a popular pastime here, oyster fishing, and commercial oyster fishing. It's a sports fishing center and a commercial fishing center, so it's highly seasonable. This is also logging country. The liberals here have pretty much ruined both of those industries, so it's a depressed economy, and it's hard for people to get enough work to actually live here full time. So during the summer, you not only have vacationers, but you have fishermen for select crops of fish who come in during the summer months that wouldn't be here during the winter. So it's kind of hard to find a vacancy at a low rate during the summer, but if you come in during the fall, you can lock in a pretty good rate. I'm only paying $275 a month. Here you see a tower. That's for the harbor master. So he makes radio contact with the ships and guides them in, warns them about anything that might be an issue for them, and arranges for their docking. So we're basically at sea level here. The entire town is no more than 50 to 100 feet, well, not even 100 feet above sea level. Passing on the left. It's a very nice maritime museum here. I volunteered to help out there, but my handicap kind of makes me useless to them. And I can't stand or walk for long distances. There's lots of RV parks here. I'm paying $275, as I'd mentioned, at the least expensive one. More common to be in the $400 to $500 a month range, but they usually have nicer amenities and more space devoted to the individual's use. None of them have swimming pools. There are hotels here that also vary widely in rates. Hello, folks. Passing. Now you see another little tower, and that's just a little tourist thing to give them a little bit better view of the bay. I would walk you up there. Okay, let's take a little walk up this thing. And we'll gust a bit. How do?
see the bar there that protects the bay, reducing the breaker's strength. And there's the tower. We have a couple of inflated buildings here. Seem to be mostly used for public events, fishing contests, eating contests, any number of things. And across the way, the widest part of the entrance to the bay, certainly not the widest part of the bay itself, is a community called Ocean Shores.
But as we swing around to the right, you'll get a glimpse of the docking area. It's actually very large and kind of wraps around the horn of the spit. There could be easily 400 or 500 boats, mostly fishing vessels. You can charter, go out, fish for almost anything out here. Lots of little touristy shops. Get all the kinds of things you normally expect to buy as souvenirs at the beach. Some of these piers go out about 3 blocks into the ocean. There's actual canneries here. Smells very good right here. All kinds of things being cooked. A lot of people make money carving trees or making sculptures out of driftwood. A lot of cottage industry. Hello, everybody. Donut shop. There's actually several of those in town for some reason, which is strange because there aren't that many police. Kite shop, all kinds of surf shops. One of many places that you can charter a boat. Lots of ice cream shops here too, on a per capita basis. All right, thank you. Air Force salutes, Navy, sir. Got a weigh station there. You can weigh your catch.
Okay, we're at kind of the heart of the dock area, at least on the north end of the spit, which makes up West Bar. And you'll see that it's kind of an enclosed area. As I'm actually looking towards the widest part of the bay. And as we pan around here, we're now looking west. South towards town. Almost all of these boats are charter boats. Some are professional fishing boats. And there's some more of the enclosure that makes this a safe harbor even during storms. However, it is interesting to note that there's something called a king tide, which can come so high that it actually overflows the streets in this part of the town anyway. And where the flagpole is, the building with the tall little roof extension, that is the Maritime Museum, and the building to the right of it as well. It's quite a large facility, actually.
There's whale watching cruises. Gentlemen? Nice thing that you can do, you just sit and people watch. Hi guys. This is one place I haven't eaten at yet. I'm going to have to give that a try. Maritime Museum is just ahead, but now we're on the main drag that takes us back into the heart of town.
This is a street view of a couple of motorhome parks that are available in the northern part of town, right by the fishing boats, the dock area. And the interesting thing about these is they don't look like it here, but they're rather remote, and there's not much around them that would afford an opportunity for stalking to take place. So a stalking victim is probably a little bit safer if they're going to be in an RV at a spot like this or this. The one on the left there is operated by an ex-military guy who seems to have a bone or two to pick with the government, so he might actually make an interesting resource for those of you who worry about those kinds of enemies. And all the restaurants and things of that nature are within easy walking distance of this location. Here we are looking northward. There's a nice large storage facility here. There's a U-Haul just down the street, and so I pan right here. We look out into the inner portion, if you will, of the bay that's forming the backside of Westport to the west, and we're now looking roughly south. And to the right here is one of the better RV parks, and more expensive therefore. You're probably looking at $500 to $600 for a monthly space rent here, but it's well equipped. It has its own store, meeting area. You can also pitch tents here, and it's very large. It's very secure compared to most. On three sides, it's surrounded by trees, very dense. No residents and no businesses around it until you get to the storage facility. And so that's a fairly interesting spot if you want some good security and can afford a really nice place. Now this is what I functionally call the center of town, speaking geographically more than anything else. Two main roadways. The primary road north-south, and an intersection at the T here to the primary road that we actually begin our bicycle ride on. And the great bulk of services and things of typical interest are going to be located very close to this intersection. So down the road there a ways, roughly 2 blocks, is actually 3 blocks is where the Lighthouse is, where we started our trip. We see the only Mexican restaurant in town right there in the orangish building, and another ice cream shop here, and one of the better taverns with hamburgers and a grill, an outdoor eating area, card room, and the major grocery store in the area, there are some lesser stores, but this is where most of the values are and the better selection. They actually carry a number of items from Walmart. And if we look this way, you can see the road goes down rather ways. It's approximately 2 miles, 3 miles perhaps, to the entrance of Westport and to this main road. And we are approximately 1.5 miles away from the dock in the other direction. So that gives you an idea of scale. And everything on the other side of these buildings is pretty much water. Now this is another very secure park. In fact, I almost tried to buy this one because it is uniquely situated, surrounded by trees, again on 2 sides, set well off the road, and not too many line of sight angles for most of the positions where one would necessarily choose to park their RV. And the lady who was selling it, because of her age, was a little bit sympathetic to our situation, but it didn't turn out. She had a very good offer from someone else, and they are running it. It is available. You can rent space here, and it runs. Let me get my mouse to work here. It runs from approximately there all the way over to beyond this first few set of trees, and then there's more trees behind it that buffer, and there's trees over here as well that buffer. So there's very good security in this aft portion, and there's roughly 100 spaces in all in this park. Now, there's also tent pitching that's done here. Now, I wanted to bring up about the last place at American. I just discovered they actually do have a swimming pool there. It's the only RV park that does, and I had assumed that none did until I accidentally discovered otherwise. A quick stop here. If you watch the rest of the video, you will see another quick stop here. But this is the building that I was trying to buy as an alternate temporary residence for anyone wishing to join here. It's actually 2 residences. One, I was going to live in the right-hand side, which is really a modified garage, and then there's 2 bedrooms available, his and hers, bunk style. And the area here was going to be a metal protected parking for 4 RVs, and then I had intended there be a metal fence here. The back is and the side here are protected, as you see, and so it was a relatively private, line of sight free situation, which is always useful for stalking victims. And the reason I liked the spot was because it was also close to the hotel that's here, the Cranberry Motel, which some of you have heard me mention, the blue building on the left there. It is a motel that is very old, and so it's kind of run down, to be honest, but it's extremely inexpensive. But what's really interesting is they have metal-clad trailers that they also rent inexpensively. And so if you did come by car, the logic was you could stay here until you could afford to buy your own. Or you could stay in the house until you could afford to buy an RV. And we had hoped to have space for a couple of RVs. You know, I'm going to take this opportunity also to talk about what we would do once we were here. If you joined the society, I would make myself available, if need be, to apply my skills as well as the equipment that I have. I have about, well, depending on who you ask, up to $24,000 worth of TCS and technical security countermeasure equipment. which is useful in detecting the stranger aspects of targeting. But also I can deal with traditional gang stalking issues. So anybody who came here and was a member would, I'll use the term, be under my protection, such as it is. But also what we would do here be my idea to hold a series of seminars and workshops at various parks around town where we could focus on specific topics and have Q&A and that sort of a thing, but do it in a very relaxing environment and partake of the what I feel are very I don't know, vacation-like atmosphere here. Here's yet one more of many more that I'm not going to show you, RV parks, but I like this one also for security aspect. It fronts with its own little motel, and then it has an RV park, and the areas which offer the best privacy are in the very, very back. You cannot quite really even see them, but they're basically protected by trees, and there's very little to worry about from the sides or the front. One does worry about maybe an RV space being taken up by I'll use the word perp, but if I'm around, I can help to deal with that. And the police basically work with me here very well. There's very few police here, and I've yet to meet one that did not appreciate what I'm trying to do. And so I have good hopes for all of that. And so now, at this point, the video will continue, and like I say, you really don't need to watch the full video unless you're just curious to see. I talk a little bit about the bike as I go as well. So I thank you very much for watching, and you can email me at proparanoidgroup@gmail.com and ask any questions. I answer every email personally, and we would like to hear from anyone who wants to join and to coordinate to the extent possible to facilitate access to an RV if you do not have one, answer questions about choosing one, all of those kinds of things I'm prepared to do. And join the society, support the society, get everyone you know who's a TI or stalking victim of any sort, electrosensitive individuals who may not necessarily even be stalked. That's the kind of people who can take advantage of what we're trying to do at the society. And we want all those people to join. We want everybody to support with donations. We can do marvels if we can just get enough money together to buy what would be the price of a house in a major city. We can get dozens of acres with existing infrastructure and do whatever we want in total privacy and security. And so that's my wish for you, and I'm here to answer your questions. You have a great day.
So that's the brief scenic tour. I'll try to augment this video with some shots from my cell phone, individual things. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to leave the camera run on the return trip. Not much to see, but it's easier than stopping to turn it off. What you have your helmet for. making this video, I've been using electric power only, mostly anyway. And not even used 10% of the power. The overall range is up to 45 miles, but more commonly in the 20-mile range. To get the better mileage, you have to go extremely slow, and you have to pedal the entire way. This road goes straight back to the tower. It's a shortcut, so to speak, to the path. And from here, you can get a path that goes into that dune park with the paths that I mentioned at the start. The speed of this bike is limited to 20 miles an hour. Which is interesting because it also prevents you from pedaling faster than 20. The other side of this little gas stop is one of the RV parks that's nicer. And like many of them, they also offer just camping spots if you wanted to pitch a tent. They got their own grocery store, their own propane sales, and laundry, meeting room, and other things. It's called American Sunset. It's really the nicest one in town. It's also very large. We have a small airstrip here, which is the building on the left. Quite self-serve. So this is the main drag. It goes from one end of town to the other. It's approximately a 6-mile long run. Roughly 2 miles from the center of town to the docks, and perhaps 3 miles to the entrance to town at the other end. Just past my bank, nicer hotels, police department, and the city centers on the left. Liquor store and other retails and services in the buildings here. There are quite a few buildings available for rent or lease or purchase for commercial use. Make good fast food joints, restaurants, shops to sell things. There are a couple of places where you can buy groceries. At the stoplight ahead is the biggest probably best for general use. Don't necessarily have the lowest prices on everything, but many of the things they sell are actually from Walmart at very near the same price that Walmart would charge. And they quite often have case lot sales that are very economical. And at this intersection, if I turn right, we'd be on the street that took us to the ocean. Goes right past the post office. It's only 2 blocks away. Another donut shop just to my right. Mexican restaurant. The yellow building ahead. There's lots of coffee shops on the sides of the road here for some reason. Very nice tavern here that has a bar and grill. Good burgers. And that's the shopping cart you just saw. There's several auto repair places here. What's interesting is you can go in and talk to anybody, and they're happy to spend the time. You know, interrupt whatever they're doing. So I spent nearly an hour talking to the mechanic at one of the car centers just because he happened to have a 1944 hot rod up on the lift, and I used to have one of those, and he was tickled pink to chat away. And the shop here on the right has been doing repairs on my bike for free. Here is a kind of a Goodwill kind of a place. I get a lot of stuff here very inexpensively that I would otherwise have to go 30 miles to find a good selection of in So up ahead you see there's a slight rise or hill. My place is just on the other side of that. And off to the left, you see the bay. It's an estuary, a tidal pool. Duck hunting and such as that is good here. Tiny homes out here as well that can be rented or leased. I suppose it's possible to find one that's for sale. They're not particularly inexpensive, but they're less expensive than a house. And speaking of houses, I tried to buy this one. Didn't work out for me. Somebody else snatched it out from under me before I could ever think about actually doing it. It actually had 2 separate living areas. And this is the least expensive motel in town. You can rent rooms for very cheap, or you can rent trailers, which are metal sided. Almost all of them. To fellow bikers. It's amazing how many people here have very large metal buildings for storing large boats.